Welcome to my channel MANHWA Duo. Enjoy the MANHWA.
Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story, Please Don't Come to the Villainous' Stationery Store. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! Meldenik's father is furious today and wants her to leave their family. This is due to the original owner of her body failing so many businesses and losing 10 billion of their money. Her stepmother Hildegard is involved in this, but her father, the Duke, doesn't seem to mind. Our girl is only too happy to accept the cash he throws her way as severance for leaving. Her father expects her to beg, but she isn't going to play along this time. She has been waiting to be kicked out, and now is the day, so she gladly bids her father farewell. She packs her belongings and plans to leave as quickly as possible before they take her money. Rosaline, her maid and the only person in the house who likes her, is surprised to see her getting ready to leave. Mel just says that she's following her dream, and Rosaline thinks that means she's finally going to ask Duke Hesmond of the North to marry her. Well, it was the original owner who dreamed of marrying him, not her. She's been living in a fantasy novel for the past few months, with Duke Hesmond and her stepsister Sharia as the main characters. In the novel, however, Meldenik is the villain who becomes engaged to the Duke and then kills herself out of jealousy. She tried desperately to return to her real world, but eventually gave up. She plans to do whatever she wants and open a stationery shop, which has been her dream for a long time. It's natural that Rosaline doesn't know what kind of source she's referring to, but she still has concerns that she'll fail this time. She tries to scare her about how it would badly change her life if she left, from the dresses she wears to the food she'll eat, but Mel doesn't mind at all. Her maid is getting teary as she warns her that her abusive stepmother may come after her when she is finally outside. She appreciates Rosaline's concern that she stay so that she can continue to receive protection, but she has already made her decision and plans to call her when things go well. Others are calling her the bloodline of curse as she walks down the stairs, and they are wondering where she's heading. This is because her mother was the last direct blood relative of the dragon-cursed Marquis Kenoa, and like her mother, most people with the blood die at a young age. Anyway, she's become used to their loud gossiping and heads to her carriage with intentions to take a trip to the slums. But before she leaves, she gives them her final goodbye that only she knows. A middle finger, and brightly tells them, a mean word. And she's off. Lady Hildegard will definitely make Sharia marry the Duke now that she has left her family, but she can't be sure that her stepmother won't kill her to make things go smoothly for them. So before she starts her store, she has already made plans to get protection from the strongest knight. She stops the carriage, not in the city or any streets, but in a cemetery. 1,000 years ago, the Empire was in chaos due to demons from the divine world, until a man emerged and sacrificed himself to seal the demons with him in a magical sword. Heroic legends about the great hero is well known across the Empire, and in the novel, it was Duke Hesmond who discovered the sword and was adored by all, even to the point of attempting to declare him emperor. However, Mel finds the sword and draws it this time. A charming young man with black hair and blue eyes appears in front of her, much like a genie. He is Dominic, the 17-year-old who saved the Empire. She gives him the sword back and asks for a contract right away, which didn't surprise him. He wants to know what she wants so he can decide if she's worth the contract. What confuses him, though, is that she only wants him to protect her. They can conquer the Empire if she wants, but she says that all she wants to do is own a stationery store, and he only needs to protect the store with her. It's funny that Dominic thinks stationery is what she wants to call the new empire, so she explains it's a store for children. She knows that if he can fully grant the contractor's wish, he will become human again, so this should be a really easy task for him. Dominic thinks about it for a second, and the two shake hands to seal their contract. They teleport in front of the prestigious academy, and Dominic is ready to enter the building, but is shocked when Mel points to an old 2-story building where they will begin their new life. After her mother died, her title was revoked, and their holdings were completely enjoyed by her father. But the only item her mother left in her name was the house, which is now falling apart. Dominic still can't believe he'll be living here, and he thinks he was tricked. Well, this is why you have to read the contract's terms and conditions before you sign it. LOL. When they walk in, the house looks really shabby, but just thinking about where she can put all the children's toys and imagining their store full of kids is already making her happy. Dominic sees how sincere she is and stops being grumpy to help her clean the house. Mel is actually an orphan in the real world, and the people who took care of her helped her grow up to be strong. She is especially grateful to the stationery store owner, who is always nice to her and gives her candies all the time. So she aspires to be like her and to make every child who visits her shop happy as well. Such an innocent dream. Can't wait for the opening. The next day, she goes to the Imperial Palace with Dominic, who is now in the shape of a sword, to get her business license. She's feeling great until a man she's only met once spoils her mood. In front of her stands Duke Lennox. He knows she left her family, but he doesn't like it and demands his future wife return within a month. As far as she knows, Lennox was just warm at first, but once he's charmed Meldonic, his attitude changed. He belittles her, paying no attention to her talents, and starts having an affair with Sharia. The two kept it a secret, but when Mel confronts him about the rumors, he gaslights her as if it's her fault, and even has the nerve to tell her not to worry because in the end, it will be them who get married. Mel doesn't understand why Lennox continues to bother her when she knows that he will miss and get closer to her sister Sharia while she's on vacation in the Holy Nation. She then tells him she's aware of his affair with Sharia, but he manipulates her anyway since he believes she's still the old Mel who loves him. But sorry not sorry, our Mel is different and is now breaking up with him. She even gives him advice and tells him to marry Sharia instead. With that, there should be no problem with the political marriage between their families. The Duke, however, does not appear to have intentions to marry her sister, despite the fact that she's gorgeous and different from Mel in many ways. He only desires to marry her. And if that's the case, she tells him he could just marry Hildegard, which confuses the Duke, as he can't really tell what she's thinking right now. She unsheaths her sword and strikes it on the ground, demonstrating her resolve and clearly stating that she is now formally requesting annulment with him. She informs him that she will send a farewell letter soon before leaving the Duke, who is still processing what she has just said. Since she doesn't usually act this way, he thinks she's just trying to get his attention out of jealousy. He is so full of himself that he thinks a girl who is obsessed with him cannot change overnight. Mel walks back to him, and Lennox expects her to apologize, which makes her chuckle. The novel's problem, in her opinion, is that it features a male lead like him. You're not wrong. She comes to correct him, as he probably thinks she's acting this way to garner his attention, which isn't really the case. He instantly grabs her and suspects she is cheating on him. The audacity! She points at a passing stranger is 100 times better than marrying him, hoping he realizes how much she despises him. She doesn't want to hear him label her a cheater, so she tells him outright that he's the one who's trash. Mel resumes her walk after feeling proud of herself for roasting the Duke. She enters the government agency and receives her license shortly. Even the attendant has a look on her face that tells she'll fail again this time. She's known for her lack of talent, but she doesn't care and leaves the place gleefully. A man picks up a document she dropped, and while she's organizing it, the gentleman questions her marriage to the Duke, which makes her angry just thinking about it. He finds her amusing, and that's when she realizes he's the man she pointed out earlier, but when she looks, he's already gone. She then comes to her newly clean and neat home, thanks to Dominic, and they discuss how they will use the money she received. The $100 million to pay a witch to fix the house, and the other $100 million to buy stationery store delights. But first, she can't forget to send Lennox a letter requesting an annulment. She blames her family for taking so long to remove her from the Babeloa family, which is why the Duke is bugging her, while Dominic can't understand why a noble like her is giving up her position. Well, she has to cut them off and give up her last name to get the freedom she wants. After all, if she becomes a civilian, her marriage to the Duke will be canceled, and she's determined she can get her reputation back someday since she has Dominic. This flutters him, and he agrees that he's indeed reliable. She's finished drafting her letter to both her family and the Duke, so her ties to them should be severed once she sends this. She gradually absorbs Meldonic's memories after transmigrating into her body, and she understands how hurt the former Meldonic was. Her childhood was not great. Young nobles bullied her for having cursed blood. Her stepmother abused her, and her father doesn't care about her at all. Not sure if this is something to be thankful for, but her father cares so much about his reputation that he doesn't want others to backbite his daughter. As a result, everyone treats her like a princess, yet their eyes tell a different story. As a result of growing up alone, she has become arrogant and snobbish in order to protect herself. Mel of the present doesn't have the power to take revenge, so all she can do now is completely remove them out of her life. Dominic spots strange people following them the next day, who are most likely working for both Lady Hildegard and the Duke to keep an eye on her. She isn't concerned because she has Dominic with her, so the two go for a walk when they notice a young child who appears to be in pain. She quickly grabs him and tries to take him to a doctor, but the boy is very stubborn, so Dominic carries him on his back and says he will treat him himself. When they get home, the young kid finds that her house is very run down and scary. Dominic uses magic to tend to his knee quickly while the kid acts like he's all brave. Then Mel recognizes the antique music box the kid is clutching, making him quite embarrassed because he expects her to mock it. But to his surprise, Mel likes it, and for the first time he meets someone who appreciates old stuff as much as he does. He then reveals that he bought it as a birthday present for his brother but is unsure if he will like it, while Mel encourages him that his brother will certainly enjoy it, and the two become closer. After Dominic treats his wounds, the kid starts to get sleepy, so Mel decides to have him sleep on the second floor for an hour until a carriage arrives. The child is sleep-talking and wants to know for sure that her abandoned house is not haunted. She can't believe he called her pretty shop abandoned. Well, kids don't lie, Mel. While Dominic carries the kid upstairs and lets him sleep, she's determined to remodel their house after realizing her shop isn't really appealing to kids yet, so the two begin by cleaning up their garden. While they clean up the backyard, Dominic tells her that he used magic to brainwash the people who were following them. This wasn't part of their deal, but it was a gift that Mel really appreciated. Suddenly, she discovers his sword lying in the grass with a dark aura on it, and he rushes to her side to protect her. Someone is striking them with ice magic, and while Dominic is protecting her with a barrier, she finds the ice stones fascinating because they don't melt. Then it goes straight for Mel and tries to kill her until Dominic starts to take things seriously and turns it into its human form. He is actually a demon sealed in his sword, and he calls himself the Moonlight Winter Devil. Dominic thinks he got freed by accident because he still can't control his power after being sealed for 100 years, but there's nothing to worry about since he can't just seal him back. Mel is really impressed by the demon's ice magic, since in this world, where there are no freezers, ice is very valuable. So Mel comes up with a great idea of having him make slushies. Dominic persuades the demon of Mel's power by revealing that even he was tricked into signing a contract with her. Mel sighs as she listens to them, and then learns that the devil has only 30 minutes left because Dominic only knows how to seal them, not release them, as this will require a large amount of mana. Say goodbye to the infinite ice supply. She then discovers that his sword has 4 demons living in it, and Winter Moon is the weakest. The demon thinks she'll exterminate him and finds her eyes really scary, lol. She doesn't have much time, so she orders the demon to produce a lot of ice that doesn't melt. The poor demon is exhausted from his task and would prefer to return to the sword. He starts to get teary and thinks of her as a demonic human. As per her instructions, the devil creates ice that will only melt once it enters the body, allowing her to generate slush. She wants him to try it as a reward, which he refuses, but then falls in love with. He calls it a revolution and demands more when, poof, he's gone. 30 minutes have already passed. I'm hoping we'll meet our slushy machine again soon. She then wakes up the young kid and serves him a slush, which he heartily enjoys. And after drinking it, his heart continues to race, making him believe he's in love with Mel, which she simply finds adorable. She walks him to the carriage, and the kid cheerfully promises to promote her stationery shop and will return once it's officially opened. She gives him a bottle of slush to take home and share with his sibling before he leaves. Mel's letter to the Duke requesting to dissolve their engagement has finally reached him. He suddenly recalls that it was his father's dream for him to marry Mel because her blood is not cursed, but has been endowed with dragon's power. Meldinik, being the heir of Konoha's blood, possesses tremendous potential, and her children will undoubtedly inherit the dragon's might, making them the strongest on the continent. Before he died, his father told him to get married and keep Mel under his control. He dismisses the letter but is surprised when it arrives with a warning that Mel intends to publicize him as an adulterer if he does not cooperate with her request, making him furious. Just then, his sister Marisa, who was born as a result of an affair and despises adultery, confronts him to see if he indeed cheated on Mel. Of course, he denies it, but this young girl knows that having a nice relationship with someone other than Mel is considered cheating, and she leaves disappointed in her brother. Meanwhile, her father has received Mel's letter confirming that she is truly going. and that he has to acknowledge that she is no longer the Babiola family's daughter. Her father is frustrated, not because his own daughter is leaving him, but because this will undoubtedly harm his reputation. And her stepmother believes she will simply return kneeling to them. You wish. Lady Hildegard suggests to the Duke that he accept Mel's request just to scare her. There's almost no incidents of nobles breaking ties with their families, and most of them drop their confessions within the 4-week adjustment period, which she feels Mel will do as well. But in reality, she wants Mel to bring this to court so she can be removed from the family and be replaced by her own daughter, Sharia. Duke Babaloa agrees with her. Thus, they will submit Mel's application to cut ties to the royal family and send Mel a letter accepting her request. So Mel is overjoyed to receive the letter from her father, but Dominic has questions as to why the Duke has not yet sent her a letter. Well, he probably doesn't want to break their engagement, but it doesn't matter now because their engagement will be null and void once she becomes a commoner. Nobles and commoners cannot marry under their law, and she cannot wait for it to happen. They are too preoccupied with their conversation to notice that the house is finally done being remodeled. Now that her house looks like a shop, the two settle down on a bench outside, and Dominic listens as she mumbles about how she wants to recruit more chefs, sell more chocolate, and if possible, bring in a wizard or an alchemist to create more amazing goodies. Dominic warns her that finding an alchemist is not easy, but our girl is so determined that she bought a 1,000-year-old sword, so how difficult could it be to bring a mage and an alchemist? He laughs at her, but agrees, and that's not it. She wants to work with demons in his sword as well. So to make that happen, the two start to make Dalgona candies for their opening tomorrow. She doesn't have much money to make a grand opening, but she's confident that their shop will someday be full of happy memories. So pure. We must protect. At that time, in the Magic Tower, Ramus reports to the Magic Tower's owner Isaac that several magic artifacts, including a mana box, have been stolen. Rasmus has 3 suspects: Earl Ellie, whose mana flow has become strange, Duke Hessman, who is experimenting with magic, and Lady Meldenik Babeloa, whom he finds most suspicious. He's done some research on her and believes her stationery shop is doing unusual magic. As you may have guessed, Isaac is the man Mel pointed out while arguing with Hessman at the Capitol. And he does find her mana special, so he decides to investigate her himself. That little boy Meldenik helped is Axion, the Crown Prince's brother, who runs excitedly to tell him that he has found the woman he wants to marry. The Crown Prince inquires about the girl's age and discovers that she is much older than Axion, a commoner, and even wishes to sell him stuff. The Crown Prince suspects Mel is either a scammer or a spy, and is now concerned about his brother's safety. Axion hands him his birthday gift and gives him the grape juice made from unmeltable ice that Mel gave him, which raises his suspicion since it's not easy for a commoner to obtain ice. He likes the slush and intends to visit Mel, but their chat is cut short when Duke Hessman arrives, proposing a business deal. Axion leaves quickly since he dislikes the Duke. This gives him more reason to look into Mel, as he knows his brother is very picky about who he plays with. Duke Hessman is working on a project for children and gives the Crown Prince, Cassian, a perfume sample and a fountain pen. It is a work of art with precious stones that distinguishes it from other pens on the market, but the prince believes it is too much for the children. Hessman wants him to invest, explaining their real target is the children's parents, and he plans to collaborate with Lady Hildegard and Lady Sharia, making his project fail-proof. Hessman is an outstanding businessman, and even small businesses have gone out of business because of him. But before he accepts his proposal, he wants to know if he's really having an affair with Sharia. He then advises him to avoid the lady since he is already engaged to Lady Meldenik, which icks the Duke, who tells him not to worry since it's their family issue. Because of his foul attitude, the prince decides not to invest in his project, while the Duke considers it a loss for the royal family since they may profit from it. Meanwhile, the stationery store is deserted today, so the two plan to develop a new item, and Mel thinks beer candies should be an amazing addition to the shop. Since kids are always seeing their parents drink, it makes sense that they should be able to enjoy a candy version of beer. Dominic thinks he can do it with magic, but needs to learn the brewing process from an expert. Mel approaches one of her neighboring merchants that day and introduces herself, promoting her newly opened stationery shop. The other girl identifies herself as Lily, and she works at Lessa's Tavern, the place where people drink, and just exactly what Mel's been looking for, so she's really excited to meet the owner. The next day, Mel presents her idea to Lessa, who believes children will enjoy it but will be unable to help because she already decided to close her tavern. Lily explains that there's a dangerous group known as the Red Priest Pirates who will harm small businesses if they are unable to pay them a large payment. And rumor has it that a powerful individual is the group's sponsor. While they're still talking, someone bangs on the door and yells for them to open it. Lessa and Lily panic and send Meldenik to hide so they do not become involved in the matter. One of the gang members dares to slap Lily, prompting Meldenik to rush to their aid. They laughed it off, since who would imagine a petite girl like her could injure them? Mel will have the final laugh, as Dominic has given her temporary access to his power. Now she can see their every move without fear of being harmed. Bring it on, idiots! She asks if they have some cash on hand, and with a mocking face, they tell her that they have a lot. Well, that's music to Mel's ears, and she starts to deal with them one by one and is so happy to confiscate all the cash they have. She's so into her thing that she doesn't notice all the people that surround her after Lily asks for help from the neighbors. Their eyes sparkle with awe at how she handled those thugs, and they praise her as a warrior of justice. When one man begins questioning her about what happened, she notices the reporter's badge on his chest and uses the opportunity to promote her stationery shop, counting on him to write a positive article about it. After that, she notices Lessa in the crowd and asks if she wants to try the project together. Lessa agrees and adds that she is willing to do whatever she can to help her. The crowd still talks about the effect of what Meldenik just did to their place, while the reporter secretly thanks her for awakening his sense of calling as a journalist and decides to document it. Dominic and Meldenik try to make beer candies, but he has no control over his power, and it could take months for him to learn how to control it. Mel decides to cook the candies on her own, and Dominic agrees if she uses basic magic on them. However, he is shocked when she reveals that she does not have magic because of the curse in her family that caused her to be born without mana, the same reason she was not accepted to the academy. Dominic disagrees and said that if that was the case, she wouldn't have been able to absorb his mana earlier, and to prove it, he offers to test it. When Dominic begins his mana test by having Meldenik identify the color of lights on his hand, she sees just white, proving that her mana is pure. He elaborates, telling her that she may not for the role of the wizard because the mana she possesses comes from human life, and she may be better suited to the role of alchemist. An alchemist can build anything out of nothing, and she can even summon Winter Moon Demon, but she will require pure mana to do so. Then, she recalls that only Isaac can do alchemy with pure mana, but no one knows where he is. Not to worry, our over-optimistic Mel is driven to improve her skills, and she has Dominic who believes in her and is ready to help her. And to put her mana to the test, they begin to produce their beer candies, which they successfully completed. But she then exhausts her mana to the limit. He attempts to eat one candy while relaxing, but when he talks, they find his voice odd and remember he put some magic on it when he got bored earlier. He thinks it's cool that his voice changes for a moment and thinks the kids will enjoy it. They stare at one another for a moment before going insane with their newfound idea to include a simple magic trick that modifies their voice in the beer candy. Our tall, dark, and handsome Isaac is preparing to meet Mel with the help of Henry, believing that it will be easier to interact with her since she is friendly towards children. Henry, at the age of 5, is a genius and enthusiastically thinks investigating Mel is his first mission. Henry greets and bows to Mel in a cute way to get her attention, and so she kneels in front of him to bring them to the same height, which is part of his plan so he can hold her and secretly gauge her level of magic. She asks his name and if he enjoys studying before digging through her bag for something to offer him, and she chooses a pencil case with an ancient word written on it. The truth will set you free, which he really likes. Mel is such a child tamer that Henry begins to think she might be a good person, but he wonders why she knows him, and Mel teases him about her ability to know what every child wants, causing him to fear and assume she'll pose a threat to children. He runs towards Isaac, whom Mel believes is Henry's father. He presents himself as the guardian, and she hands him the pencil case for Henry and the beer candy for them to try. When he holds her hand, she feels something unusual but ignores it, while Isaac is also aware of a weird mana flow that he believes is related to Kanoa bloodline. She enthusiastically promotes her stationery store and wishes them farewell. Isaac resolves to keep up the father and son act and asks Henry to call him Dad. Cutie. Then get taken aback when Henry asks him who would be his mother. Men who are good with kids are so attractive. She's returned after forming a partnership with the tavern's owner, but Dominic has even better news for her. Her recent activities have been featured in a newspaper. She immediately reads the article about how she defeated 17 Red Priest pirates on her own, and there's even a section for witnesses who praised her as a hero. Not only that, but the reporter didn't forget to promote her shop, stating how she's selling a variety of kid-friendly things such as candy that can change your voice, and her non-melting slush. Both of them are so proud, but then she realizes that the Duke and her father will definitely hear about it. Not to worry, Dominic has already taken care of it. Since he brainwashed her stalkers, he also injected them with stories about her doing insane things and just wasting money. And both houses will undoubtedly accept their spies' reports rather than the article. The newspaper reaches the academy students who are curious about the stationery store but reluctant to enter because it is a commoner shop, and they believe it is impossible for commoners to produce such amazing goods. Axion hears the news and reads the article about Mel beating the Red Priest pirates, who had previously bullied him, and believes she did it for him. He begins to imagine Mel as a cool knight until a transferred student requests to accompany him to the shop. He is Karat, a child wizard secretly sent by the Magic Tower to prevent the kidnapping of the Academy's students. Karat actually finds the shop suspicious and suspects Mel is a child kidnapper. And because Axiom recalls Mel telling him to bring friends, he agrees to go with him. Cassian quickly gets a letter from his brother telling him that he'll be going to see the woman of his dreams, Mel, and he wants Cassian to join him at the shop. Cassian can no longer delay and must find out about the suspicious commoner before something bad happens. The Emperor actually has 8 children, and sadly, most of them died of unknown diseases, leaving only the 2 of them, which is why he's so protective of Axion. Axion arrives at the stationery shop, and this time he introduces himself to Mel and his friend Karat. Mel is so happy and welcomes them warmly in her shop. Karat starts his observation and senses more power from Dominic, while he thinks Axion is under a love potion as he keeps acting weird. Axion discovers a soap bubble she's selling, and Mel reveals that it's one of her experiments, which Karat interprets as an evil experiment. Don't worry, you will love her. He then plans to use his magic if things go bad. They move outdoors while the young wizard prepares to counter, until Mel blows the bubbles. The prince pops the bubbles, which transform into a lovely flower and begin to have fun. She knows Karat is wary of her, so she asks him to try the bubble blower himself, which he agrees to do to see if it's really safe. He plays with it and soon begins to feel strange, as if he's in a dream. He then lets down his guard and becomes a child again, simply enjoying the bubbles. This is really wholesome. He doesn't even know he's finished the whole bottle of bubbles until Mel asks him if he likes it. He tries to convince himself that it's not fun when his mouth says otherwise, wanting to do it again. It's okay to have fun, Karat. She smiles at him and invites him to drink slushies, but this time he's determined to not drink anything from her shop, or he'll end up like Axion. In the end, he fails and enjoys it. Cutie. Axion believes it is much better for her to marry his brother instead of him when, speaking of the devil, his brother Cassian arrives. They actually know each other, and that is when she realizes Axion is actually the youngest prince. They settle down and sit together while Axion innocently shares that Mel saved him before, making her appear suspicious as if she's using the young prince to gain his favor. This is when Cassian asks her about her intention of building a shop and helping his brother. In the novel, Prince Cassian ascended to the throne with the help of his childhood friend and her enemy, Duke Hessman. He is also supposed to be the wisest of all nobles and to fall in love with Sharia, so Mel wishes to avoid becoming involved with him. It does not matter if he believes her or not, but she just honestly tells him it is her dream to start a small business where she can make children happy. However, the prince warns her that she would be unable to run a normal shop because certain others see her as their enemy. She then uses this chance to ask if she also needs to consider him as one of them, which the prince denies, making her smile in relief. Before they leave her store, she gives them an entire pack of beer candies to share with their friends. And since the crown prince himself visits the shop, she also prepares something for him. According to the novel, Cassian suffered nightmares after his nanny died and after his siblings died of strange causes. No one actually knows the reason behind their deaths, and she believes it's just the setting the author gives Cassian. He is then comforted by Sharia, which sparks his crush on her. But this time, she intends to establish a good connection with him and be the first to give him a gift. A dream catcher to help him have better dreams. It has a spell on it, and she lies about hiring a mage to do it, but the prince immediately recognizes it as hers and Dominic's. He gratefully receives her present and cannot believe she's the same girl who was rumored to be talentless.